Very interesting developments in our local fashion industry, our
sure.
textiles industry for that matter. The fact that ATL is denying that
the workers.
Well, they're saying that it's because we've got new machines. And you know, when there's mechanization, there is little need for, human hands and all of that. So let's see how that pans out. Thanks very much indeed. Sunday we'll be back with more of the day's stories. But the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Emmanuel Kofi Inti, says the Commission will, from next week, embark on a full-force implementation of the excise tax stamp policy. He says the final phase of implementation process will involve seizure, confiscation, and prosecution of non-compliant members of the public who do not affix tax stamps on their excisable products.
The excise tax stamp policy was introduced by the Finance Ministry to avoid the non-payment of the right taxes for alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages imported, as well as controlling the entry of unwholesome products on the Ghanaian market. The Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Emmanuel Kofi Inti, says this final phase of implementation process will involve drastic punitive measures like seizure, confiscation and prosecution of non-compliant members of the public for failing to affix tax stamps on their excisable products. In a media briefing Monday morning, Emmanuel Kofi Inti advised the public to desist from buying any excisable product without a tax stamp from the market.
Enforcement compliance exercise will involve the complete detention, seizure, and imposition of the required 300% penalty of the duties and taxes involved on corporates. As I have said on a number of occasions in the past 1 month, whenever I've had the opportunity to speak to the media, I wish to reiterate that the days of impunity about non-compliance with the tax laws are completely over. We wish to convey to the public that they cannot choose and select which of the tax laws they want to obey. All the sanctions enshrined in the law on failure to comply with the affixing of the excise tax stamp will be applied to the letter. I wish to assure the public that it has never been and will never be the intention of GRA to embarrass and harass anybody.
The Commissioner General believes the government has given so much grace period to both manufacturing firms and retailers to deal with the challenges associated with the policy for some time now, hence the new action. Advisor to the Commissioner, Akwesi Yanchere, explained the way out for manufacturing firms facing some challenges with cost of affixing machines.
We have handheld affixing machinery. The handheld, we have the one which you just fix, and we have one which is motorized, which is faster, a little more efficient. That one, the landed cost is about $2,700, so that, if you clear it, I assume that to be around $3,000 a piece, which you can buy, which you can use. So if you are a small-scale producer, you can buy some of
the excise tax stamp is a specially designed digital stamp with security features which will be affixed on specific excisable goods in Ghana, whether locally manufactured or imported, to show that taxes or duties have been paid or will be paid on them.
Now, Ghana's collapsing poultry industry is to see a revamp in the coming months as the country welcomes some poultry operators and investors from Morocco. Morocco currently rakes in close to $1 billion annually in the production and export of poultry products, making them one of the leading market leaders in the sub-region. Now, Charles Aite was at the Maiden Ghana Morocco Poultry Summit in Accra and has the rest of the story.
What is happening is a business-to-business meeting between poultry farmers, operators from Morocco, and that of those here in Ghana. The entire move is to exchange business ideas on how best to remain competitive in the poultry industry, especially when Ghana currently imports almost 135 million tons of poultry each and every year from Europe. This business-to-business meeting is going to be, of course, very important to poultry farmers here in Ghana as they get to learn from the masters, Morocco in that regard, on best ways by which they could remain highly competitive and, of course, remain truly productive in their areas of study. We shall be engaging operators and so stakeholders on this, what this means to them and the way forward for Ghana's already collapsing poultry industry.
Ghana imports about 135 million tons of poultry on an annual basis to complement the gap in local production. This trend could change as Moroccan investors engage their Ghanaian counterparts on best ways of injecting capital in the sector. Minister of Agri, Dr. Owusu Afriyie-Akoto, believes the coming on board of poultry investors complements government's agenda of reducing importation of poultry products.
Morocco started where we are now, dependent almost entirely on imports. They have been able to develop their industry to the extent that they are now net exporters of meat and chicken. And don't forget, 20 years ago, we were in that position. We were exporting to Angola, to Nigeria for meat. Since then, of course, our industry has collapsed. We still have people, knowledgeable people, business people, entrepreneurs in the industry, but because of the feed problem, they are not able to produce profitably. Instead of using $300–400 million importing meat to just eat, we can use that money to buy to do clinics and construct clinics and schools and so on. I mean, that's what the whole idea, for economies to develop.
President of the Morocco Poultry Federation, Youssef Alao, says the collaboration has the potential of making both countries major players in the poultry industry.
Last year, the Minister of Agriculture of Republic of Ghana came to visit us in April for that big fair we have in Morocco. And as you know, Morocco was importing like frozen chicken like 20 years ago. But we decided that Moroccan citizens need to eat like fresh products. And so since 20 years, so now we are self-sufficient. And we think that experience that we have in Morocco, in accordance with the experience of people from Ghana, maybe we can share our experience and say that we stop the import of those products.
The president for the Ghana Poultry Farmers Association, Victor Opon Ajay, was confident that the engagement gives Ghana the opportunity to become competitive.
The opportunities are a lot. Apart from everything, it's going to create jobs for the people in Ghana, and it's going to alleviate poverty from the people, because when people are employed, poverty will be reduced. So this is an opportunity for us. If we are even producing 1 million a month, is a lot. It's a lot.
Meanwhile, President of the Morocco Poultry Federation says details regarding the exact investment amount will be released after a conclusion of the meeting with these investors.
Well, maybe it will just take the Moroccans to save our poultry industry. That'll be it for this segment of the news. We have more in our main story for today after this break.
You're welcome back to Business Live, to our main story for tonight. And General Secretary of the Tanker Drivers Association has announced that the strike by their members has been called off. And so what exactly is necessitating this sudden change of mind? Let's find out from the General Secretary in this clip.
Yeah, I think that really we are satisfied with whatever agreement has been reached. The fact is that, let me say that we are very, very sorry for what happened the course of today. And we are also very happy that at the end of the day we have been able to come to some level of understanding. And let me tell you that the union, with its membership, is really satisfied with the steps that are being put in place for us to address the concerns of the tanker drivers. We've agreed that going forward, after going back to work, we'll be engaging the stakeholders, the Tanker Owners Association as well as MPA, for us to meet on Monday, for us to look at the actual grievances of the employees and address them. And we are satisfied with that.
Okay. And your members made specific reference to some conditions of service which triggered this particular action that we saw today and then the announcements last week. From where you stand as the chairman or the leader of a group, the general secretary of a group, do you think your members will be satisfied with this particular agreement?
Yes, I think whilst we are meeting here, we have the leadership of our members. The Tanker Drivers Union members are here. And I think we consulted ourselves very well. We went out to caucus before we finally came to this agreement.
He talks about the drivers boycotting OMCs that do not comply fully with this particular manual. But that would mean that they are giving unfair advantage to other people who will overlook some of the breaches of this manual and still go and supply fuel to the people.
No, but the fact is that that's the only way we can solve the problem. The manual is very explicit. When you go to a place and you are not satisfied about the discharging processes, you as a driver, you need to boycott it, because if you don't do that, at the end of the day, you'll be surcharged for whatever losses is involved. So I think that people are okay with it, and I think we agree that they can boycott it.
We are not going to hear any threats of strike action again.
I assure you, I don't think it's going to happen. Thank you. It will not happen.
All right, so my colleague Komla Adoma has been following this very development and now joins me in the studio. Komla, the General Secretary, you heard him, he said they're going back to engage their members. Didn't they do that before embarking on the strike?
Well, Sandra, from the information we have, they had been engaging with the NPA and some other stakeholders in the space, but they were not getting any positive responses from them, and that prompted their strike action, which we saw today.
So the meeting, what were some of the issues that were highlighted, and how are they going to move this whole, it's temporary, they are not calling it over, they've just suspended it. So how are they going to move the whole conversation forward to be able to come to an amicable resolution?
Well, Sandra, so at this particular meeting, there was NPA, there was BOST fuel tanker drivers, there was the National Fuel Tanker Drivers, there were other stakeholders in the space. And then the agreement, one of the things they agreed on is that the National Oil Manual, which gives a set of guidelines which all these fuel tanker transporters must comply with when they are going to discharge fuel to the OMCs, must be followed to a letter. They say going forward, these guidelines must be followed to a letter.
Why were they not following the guidelines in the first place?
You know, some of these issues have to do with personal, discretions and, biases and all of this. Some of the individuals want to make a lot more money, and so they overlook some of these infractions, and then they still distribute the fuel to these OMCs. So now they are saying going forward, they're going to strictly enforce this compliance. Once the OMCs do not abide by the safety protocols, they will not discharge the fuel, and those who overlook these guidelines will be surcharged, and they are charging the tanker drivers to actually boycott these OMCs.
All right, Komla, hold it right there. Let's go over to the phone to speak to the MD of Engine Petroleum Ghana to find out more. Mr. Kwabwa, can you hear me, and good evening?
Good evening, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, thanks so much for joining. One of the main issues of contention leading to this strike is that the Petroleum Product Transportation, Delivery, Rental and Loss Control Manual is what the tanker drivers are contesting. What exactly does this whole thing mean?
Well, I think it's a guideline that has been put in place to ensure that fuel is discharged in full when they arrive at their final destination. Now, if you go through the manual, the guidelines are quite clear. I mean, upon arrival at the service station or the delivery point, the discharge procedure, and even after the discharge procedure, what needs to be done. Now, if there's any disagreement whatsoever, the guidelines also, it gives direction as to what needs to be done, when there's any disagreement of any sort.
Right.
But let me add again that this whole process is collaborative. There are a lot of parties involved in all that. So from the gantry through from the gantry through to the final delivery point. Right. Everybody has a role to play.
All right, so we've seen a document that has been signed by the EP and dated May 14, saying that until this document is revised, you have to comply with this directive. So why is it so difficult for the OMC to comply?
We are complying with it. I mean, I don't
if you're complying, then why are the tanker drivers accusing you or saying that you're not complying?
No, I mean, if you cited a letter by the NPA in May 2018, this issue has come up over and over and over. And we have been to the NPA to see how we can resolve it. I mean, the oil marketing companies have these manuals at all their retail outlets. It's a matter of, it's not just, we haven't seen any instance where an oil marketing company has refused to follow these discharge procedures. So we are complying with it. Probably, I mean, in any case, when a tanker short delivers, of course, the driver will be aggrieved because the money will be deducted from his salary and all that.
Yes.
But I'm saying that if the driver is not satisfied that he has not short delivered, of course, there are avenues for him to be addressed.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. We've been speaking to Henry Akwaba, who is the MD for Petroleum Ghana Limited. And Darokwa, this is a conversation that today you saw the demonstration and the outcome of what happened.
And the strike has been called off.
It's been suspended.
Yes. And hopefully in the few days, there were fears that we run out of fuel because there was a strike and all of that. But thankfully, things have changed. So let's see how things go in the days to come. We have to wrap up the news. I want to thank Komla for giving us that update. But I also want to mention the fact that the MPC has maintained the policy rate at 17%. More details on that story when Emmanuel Abwajiri comes your way with business on Joy News Prime. Remember that the central bank cited threats to inflation and economic growth as the reasons for maintaining the policy rate at 17%. That'll be it for Business Live tonight. Thanks for watching.
My name is Sandra Isanamafenu.
And my name is Darokwa. We'll see you same time tomorrow.
All right.